Hello and welcome to a painting video. So you can watch along while I go through how I work on this Misty forest mountain painting. It's going to be quite a large painting that I hope to put above our bed in the bedroom. We have a king-size bed, so I wanted a very wide landscape there. Our colors are mainly greens, grays, and dark brown. But first, I like to make sure I have a tasty beverage with me, so I'm making a matcha latte here. My little assistant obviously needs some treats before we commence painting. Good paw. Good girl. Other paw. Good girl. Have a kiss? Oh, thank you. Do you want the last one? Yeah, you want the last one? Yes. So I start out by using my glass palette, which is essentially just glass from a picture frame, and I've taped up the edges so it's not sharp. And I built this board a while ago to keep all my oil paints hung up on there. I usually just store them upside down. And I'm going to be going in with the first Misty layer. Now, I didn't record right from the beginning of starting this painting because, unfortunately, I wasn't sure how it was going to turn out, and I didn't initially like it, but this was a very much so trust the process painting. The trees look really funny and silly, kind of placed all over the place, but I wanted to build this painting up in layers, so using kind of an off-white with like a blue-gray tint to it, I thin that out, and I do some very thin layers to make it look like a misty, foggy kind of atmosphere. And I take a really fluffy brush and just go to town blending that in across basically all the trees that I have painted there. So you can see some of the lighter trees in the background have already had a layer of the white paint to make the fog, and then I went in with another tree layer. So this does take a few painting sessions because I painted in layers like that. So this video will cover 2 painting sessions. It took about 3 hours in total for both painting sessions. Once I get into the darker colors, I then make sure I take my painting apron. I usually do wear it with the lighter colors, but sometimes I just forget. And then I always wonder why I have got paint on all of my clothes. So I have this apron that I've used for a really long time. Whenever I clean my glass palette, I just kind of put it onto my apron, and then I just wipe off any residue there, and then go ahead and choose all my dark greens. I kind of just choose an array. I slowly get lighter with the greens and change up some of the tones with each layer of trees, so that way there's some variance with the layers that I build up. And I make sure it's fairly thin, not translucent, but just thin enough so I can easily make all those brush marks for the little branches coming off the side. Now this is one of my favorite brushes to use for this. It's a very stiff bristle brush, and it makes the smaller branches go on very easily and scratchy, whereas this one is a little bit thicker, a little bit softer, and I can get some of the bulk of the big trees done. So I'll do a lot of the center with these and then go in with my small brush to really get all the branches out there. Now I'll let you guys just enjoy watching some different angles and close-ups of how I paint these trees. Then later on in this video, I show you how I like to store any excess paint if I'm going to be doing another painting session, and then at the end, how I like to clean my oil brushes. If I will be painting again in a few days, I like to use the press and seal cling wrap and really just wrap around all those bristles. I make sure there's enough paint in the bristles so that there's no air pockets in them, and then really just press everything down. If I have mixed up excess amount of my paint, I like to scrape that off and put it all into one glass container. Now, because it's not completely air sealed, it does end up having a bit of a film on it later, but I kind of have a workaround for that. Now on to painting session number 2. I decided to make myself a nice latte. I have my coffee set up in my studio, and then I have my favorite picture just right next to it. So I like to listen to music while I'm painting, especially anything that's kind of relaxing and just repetitive, like making these trees. Currently, I'm listening to the new Sleep Token album. I'm obsessed. It's a really weird mixture of genres with a lot of like heavy metal in it, more so towards the end of a couple of songs. It's a lighter album than a lot of their other ones, but really good if you're into that type of music. Now I go in and I make sure I have my apron on this time, and I have this shirt is my painting shirt. It's a long sleeve that I don't mind getting some paint on it, but my studio does get quite warm in the spring summertime, so eventually I end up taking it off because it's just too warm to paint in it. So here is my container of extra paint. Now, as you can see, it's created a skin layer on top that has dried, but you can feel everything else underneath is still wet. So what I like to do is pierce a hole in the one side of it, and then slowly just kind of squeeze it out as you would from a tube of paint, and just press all of that out through there. Eventually, yes, you might get your fingers dirty. It might cause some other rips somewhere else. And then I just use my palette knives to really scrape everything out of there and leave that skin layer to toss it onto some paper towel. I know there are different ways of storing it, but this is kind of the best way that I've found that I like, and it's just convenient for me. I don't end up with as much paint waste, and then I have this kind of as a base color to work off of for my next little green mixture that's going to be slightly different. Now, during this painting session, I found that it really started to come together and be a bit more of what I had envisioned in my mind. Before, it just looked really silly with all those little trees, and then now really building it up, getting some more detailed trees in there. I'm really happy with how it's going. On camera, the white misty bits look a lot brighter than as it does in person, but I think that's because the background was a little bit darker gray. But I'm hoping that eventually, as I add some more layers, the mist won't look so patchy. So you can enjoy these clips of me just kind of painting away and doing different denseness of trees all along. There's some that are very skinny and spindly and almost look dead, and then there's some really thick ones, but I kept a lot of the chunkier trees to the back. Now the final step, washing my brushes. I try to make sure I clean them whenever I'm done using them. If I know I won't be painting for a few days, because I don't really want to wreck any of my good brushes. So I use some turpentine and just rinse out some of the brushes in there to get a good chunk of any of the paint out of there. Then I go in with my Master's brush cleaner, brush preserver. Um, I find I love the way my brushes kind of maintain their original shapes, and the bristles are really well cared for when you use that. So I kind of swish it around, and I'm due for a new one soon, but this one has lasted me absolute years, which has been great. And then I've got this little pink silicone makeup brush cleaner, and I find it works really, really well for kind of just really scrubbing in that cleaning soap in there. So sometimes if I find they're really dense brushes that are really big too, and I feel like I'm not getting the center of them clean, then I will take my Dawn dish soap and wash them out with that. And once the brushes are all rinsed out and clean, I let them air dry. I do have a little contraption where I clip them bristles pointing down so none of the water seeps into the metal casings there, and it doesn't break up that glue holding in all the bristles. But I hope you enjoyed following along on this giant painting of mine, and we'll see you in the next part 2.